From 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Big news, big debates, big opinion. Patrick Christie's Tonight is the week's biggest show. Every weekday, 9 to 11 p.m, we've got the inside track on the day's top stories. There'll be sharp takes you won't get anywhere else. We will set the news agenda, not just follow it, and I want to bring you along for the ride. Whatever it is, we'll have our finger on the pulse. It's news, but it's this close to entertainment. Patrick Christie's Tonight, 9 till 11 p.m, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa!
Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Have a great Saturday night with me, Leo Carson, this Saturday Night Showdown. It's a crazy world out there, so come and make fun of it with me, my panel of comedians, and a couple of people who actually know what they're talking about. This Saturday Night Showdown is your front row ticket to the clown show, every Saturday, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain. Join us, Tom and Emily,
To find out what's happening in the heart of Westminster.
and why it matters to you.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And from your doorstep to our inbox,
That's right, we want to hear from you,
GB News.
Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Almost any time that people talk about woke, the question of gender issues arises. So I thought it might be best if I could speak to perhaps the most famous transgender person in the world, Caitlyn Jenner.
John, it's a pleasure to be here with you.
It's so nice of you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I want to know what you really feel about woke.
I hate it. I am so against it. You have to realize, in being in the trans community, you think, oh my gosh, you must be.
You're not expecting that.
Yeah, you don't expect it. But I've been around a long time. I've seen a lot. I am a product of my father, who was in this country for 4 months training to invade Normandy.
He was on the beaches in Normandy?
He was the 5th Ranger Battalion. They were the first boats on Omaha Beach. He somehow survived. He even said on his deathbed, he died in 2000, he even said in his deathbed, he said, hey, I should have died a long time ago. I had a great life. I have no complaints. But he was a true American. I mean, that was the greatest generation. I am a product of that. I'm a patriot. The United States, I love the good old US of A. I'm a patriot. When I was growing up, we said the national, we did the national anthem. We had the Pledge of Allegiance that we sang. No, they don't do all that stuff anymore.
They don't do the Pledge of Allegiance?
No, not anymore in schools. And it's a shame. And I've always been so proud to be an American. And in fact, I was the first person to ever put up an American flag, or a flag, any flag, at the finish line at the Olympic Games, where now everybody goes across the finish line. They have their PR guys standing there.
Yeah.
And thank you. They have their PR guys standing there, and they have the country's flag. And I started that whole thing back in 1976. It wasn't planned. A guy jumped out of the stands and gave me a flag, and I
Really?
oh my God, what do I do?
Spontaneous.
And yeah, so I've always been a very proud American, and I'm proud of our culture and everything. And I see what's happening in the woke world, and it, to be honest with you, really, really bothers me. I see the advertising world.
One end of it is sort of useful and constructive, and the other end is a bit crazy.
I would agree with that. Yeah. The old saying, you go woke, you go broke, and you're seeing how advertisers are doing that. But for me, I've always been on the conservative side. When I came out, 2015, and I did Diane Sawyer, but I did it as Bruce, and it was the first interview I had done that I'd ever talked about dealing with gender dysphoria my entire life. And at the end of the interview, she goes, well, we talked about gender dysphoria and the problems with this and that and the trans community. And she goes, oh, and by the way, I was kind of surprised. I hear you're a Republican. And I went, I was kind of surprised by the question, but I go, yeah, we have Democrats, we have Republicans. I've always been on the conservative side. I've been, and she goes, well, that's very surprising. I got more flack for being a Republican than I did for being trans. Yeah, I've always been that way, and I've always been involved in politics in some way. Lately, more because there's so many political issues.
You recently stood for governor.
I did. This was a year and a half ago, whatever it was now. There was a recall election going on in California. I've lived in California since 1973, been there a long time. I remember driving my 1963 VW Bug. I just graduated from college in Iowa. And I was driving to California because I was going to make it in California. And I remember coming to the sign right at the border. It says, welcome to California, the Golden State. And I was like so excited. I'm going to California. I'm going to make it there. And I did. I went to San Jose, was there for the last 4 years training for the games in San Jose, California. And yeah, I won the games out of San Jose and moved to Los Angeles after that because you were getting into the entertainment business. And I just loved California. And to watch it just being destroyed by liberal, woke Democrats. The state is run by that.
So what's the woke part of that? It's liberal, but woke Democrats.
Yes, woke Democrats, very liberal. It's all about fairness. It's all about this. In fact, you see Biden and even all the Democrats talk about we are a democracy. We got to protect the democracy. Well, we're not a democracy in the United States. We are a constitutional republic. And a democracy is about equality, fairness, all of that, okay? What we are is a constitutional republic. It's about equality. It's about everybody being equal, okay? It's about everybody's individual rights. We as Americans are individuals and we have rights as an American, okay? A democracy is just about everybody's got to be equal. So we are a constitutional republic.
Is it equal?
It's all based on each individual's rights as an American.
And
to
duties?
do what they want to do, to build a business.
Caitlyn, rights and duties, or is it just rights?
A constitutional democracy is about individual rights, not equality. Not like you have to be like everybody else. as an American, we have individual rights when we're born. We have the Bill of Rights. We've got all of this. And so, you know, I wanted to stay that. And I see us going farther and farther away from that with bigger and bigger and bigger government in the United States. So in California, when the recall election came up, and I just loved the state. And honestly, I thought of my father, who's in 2000, we buried him in Arlington with all his war buddies.
Arlington, yeah.
And if he could see what was happening to our country and to our state, he would be devastated. When his generation, you know, 364 guys in his division, 60 came back alive. Okay? Everybody around him died for our individual freedoms, you know? And to see how we're losing that and how government is taking that over.
And what are they
thought, you know
losing?
what? I can stand up. I think as Americans, we need to stand up. And Gavin Newsom has been an absolute horrible governor. He was horrible for this. He was mayor of San Francisco. He was the beginning of the downfall of San Francisco. Now it's don't even go there. Everybody's leaving the place. It's the same with the state, high taxes, so many regulations. You can't do business in this state anymore. It's just going downhill, all because of the Gavin Newsoms of the world. And
how much is that influenced by woke?
Unfortunately, a lot of it is this woke mentality of everybody has to be fair, everything's got to be nice, we have to be understanding of this. Honestly, it just doesn't work that way. So when the recall election came up, I thought, why not? You know, hey, my dad stormed the beaches of Normandy. I said, at least I could storm the beaches of Malibu, you know, to try to save the state. And I knew it was almost an impossible task. And we've never even had a woman governor of the state of California, let alone a trans girl.
All right.
And I knew it was a really, really tough up-road battle, but I also knew that it would get me involved. I've got to try. As an American citizen, I have to try and do what I can to save that. You know, so I went in, did okay, but I learned a lot. It brought me more into the political side of things.
What did you learn from that you didn't know before?
What a scam California is.
Scam?
Scam. Everything's a scam. Everything's about politics. Everything's a scam. Take homeless issue. Homeless issue in California is a big, big business, okay?
Business?
Oh, huge business.
Tell me more.
Nonprofits, you know, we hear about them all the time. You have nonprofits and stuff. There are nonprofits in California that are really backed by government. They give them literally billions of dollars. Gavin Newsom has spent like $3 or $4 billion on trying to solve the homeless issue, and only doubled in size. Why? Because he gave the money to certain nonprofits who have tremendous overhead. 90% of the money goes to run that nonprofit. Then
Are you serious? 90%?
Then the money they have left over, they send it back to, you know, for campaigns for Democratic candidates, for the Gavin Newsoms of the world. They kick the money right back. So it's a scam.
So it's a crime.
But I do want to say,
It's a crime.
in California, and because when I was there, I went all through on the homeless issue. There are a lot of nonprofits that are just so good. I mean, they do wonderful work, you know? But for the other ones, the ones that are getting state money, they're only, you know, they're doing it to run the nonprofit and to kick it back to Gavin Newsom. Like Salvation Army, downtown LA, phenomenal work. No state money. Church organizations in downtown LA serve 1 million meals a year, and they take no state funds. And they have, you know, rehab centers for drug addiction, and they do wonderful work. And but on the big side, it's a scam, you know. And every time you turn around, and you just get so disappointed in people, so disappointed in that. So yeah, it's tough. California's going downhill. Do you know, if you lived in Denver, and you needed to go to California, you need to get a U-Haul, okay? Because you got to bring a bunch of stuff to California.
Yeah.
They'll give you the U-Haul for free. You don't even have to pay. Why? Because they want to get all the U-Hauls out to California, and then they double the price because they need U-Hauls there because everybody's leaving.
Yeah, my daughter's thinking of moving out of California.
Yeah, it's tough. I've certainly thought about it, but I have a very large family. I don't know if you've heard. I have a lot of children.
Yes.
Yes. And
well, how many?
Well, I have 10 kids that I help raise, and I'm coming up in the next month or two. I'll have 22 grandchildren. Yeah, so I have a large family, and everybody's living in California. So for me, it would be really difficult to leave.
Yeah.
Although I certainly have thought about it, you know.
But coming back to woke, which is what I'm fascinated by, do you think all their ideas are bad, or most of them, or some of them?
I think.
I mean,
let's take the trans people.
Yeah.
I think they've taken the woke ideology and has just taken it to the max, where it's not even. I'm a common sense person, okay? I like to think of I'm the adult in the room. Okay, maybe I'm not, but I like to think of myself as the adult in the room that has had a lot of experiences in life. I've gone through a lot in my life, and I've learned a lot, and I know kind of how the world works. But because of that, I'm not always on the radical, I call them the Radical Rainbow Coalition, the Radical Rainbow Mafia. I mean, the LGBT community, there is a small group that has taken that over, even in the trans community, small group of highly woke, crazy people that I don't think, they're not good for trans people in general, because they're so outspoken, and, trans women are real women, and, they're yelling at people, and you're not going to get anywhere that. But it's a small community. And in social media...
Why do they have so much power if they're so small?
Because of social media gives them a big, loud microphone, big, loud voice. And...
But does that give...
What social media has done is given small groups a big voice. And the media loves it because it's very controversial and this and that. So the media follows.
You get lots of clicks.
Yes, yes. And so many people in the LGBT community, I mean, not so many, a small group of people in the LGBT community have this big social media microphone that's out there. And they want to get clicks. They want to be celebrities. They want to be influencers. And honestly, I think that really hurts. Most trans people, all they want to do is just go live their life.
Exactly. Well, that's the feeling I have. Yeah. But there's an extraordinary obsession about a group of people who are important, like any other group of people, but it seems to be out of proportion, the amount of coverage they get.
I agree with you 1,000%.
I'm Andrew Doyle, executive producer of the Dinosaur Hour, and Lewis Schaefer with me here. You were the maitre d' in the Dinosaur Hour.
No, I was the star of the entire show, and I think people are going to see that when they.
You were.
They're going to see
we cut you out a lot.
You know what? If my mother was still living, she would be furious.
She would, but she's not, and I knew that was okay.
No, but I am in the opening. I hope you don't cut out the opening section.
No, you're in the opening section.
I'm in the opening section.
And of course, working with John Cleese, that must be exciting.
Well, that was amazing, really. I didn't appreciate it at the time, but then I'm sitting there working with him. I'm thinking, this is John Cleese.
Yeah.
This is John Cleese, as in cheese.
You've got to get that right. Yeah. In America, they call him Cleese.
Yeah.
And he really has a problem with that. But you're an American and you're getting it right.
Well, my name is Schaefer. People say Schaffer. You just got to get used to it. Or change your name to something that everybody pronounces properly.
People normally get mine right. Although I was called Andrew Boyle by a critic once, made me angry.
Because that's probably the first time that's ever happened to you. With me, my name has been misspelled. I remember one time I noticed my name was spelled correctly at a restaurant. And I was like, it was in my 30s, and I was like shocked. Because it never happens. But John Cleese.
John Cleese.
Yeah.
I mean, the great thing about the show was to be able to make the show that he wanted to make, which was talking to the people that he found interesting about the subjects that he found interesting. And that isn't something that normally is granted by television channels to stars. They normally tell them what they have to do, where they have to stand, all of that.
Well, let's just hope that people he finds interesting are people we find interesting.
Or that the audience finds interesting.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Well, I found them interesting.
No, I found them interesting.
Yeah.
I have to find them interesting because I'm working with John Cleese.
Yes.
And as we're spending more time with the dude, I'm realizing, oh my God, this is John Cleese.
Well, I mean, because Python was really big in America.
It was really big in America, and I think it was real. I don't know if it was really big in America. It wasn't really big in America. It was big among college kids.
Right.
And I was at university. I was at university at the time, and I remember we watched all the episodes, and then we're waiting for the next thing to come out, and it wasn't like it was my first association with British television, whereas they don't produce as many episodes as they do in America.
They don't.
So you're sitting there waiting. John Cleese has unlimited patience.
He does.
Yeah.
But with you.
With me, with everybody.
I don't have limits. I'm very impatient with you.
I don't think you are, no. I think you're trying to do what's best for the show, and I think you just handle it in a bad way.
Yeah.
He's 83 years old. He knows what to do with people. And a lot of the thing that on screen is him like saying I'm an idiot or stupid or whatever it is.
Yes.
And I hope it comes across as being funny. I mean, I did cry afterwards.
You did, because there was an authenticity to it.
Yeah.
Which I picked up on.
But in our private dealings, he was very cordial.
It's an odd place to film it, the castle in the middle of Essex. It really was the middle of nowhere. I mean, there was nothing anywhere. You know, we kept going to that same restaurant because there was only one restaurant in the village.
Don't give the people the impression we were eating meals. But it was in the middle of nowhere, and I don't know why you chose it. I mean, you could have probably built a set for less money.
We probably could.
And it would have been closer, and you wouldn't have had to schlep people all the way to the middle. Headington Castle.
It's not very useful for you to tell me this now.
Yeah.
This is the kind of advice I could have had before the show started.
Listen to me. I try to keep out of your business, Andrew. I'm so happy to be getting a job. My life was at the lowest point. You saved me. The thing I learned. Can I say one thing?
You can say whatever you like.
What actual John Cleese? Less is more. I know they say that about all the great actors.
Yes. Yes. Whereas your instinct is to overplay.
Yes, because I'm an amateur and a failure.
You're a drama queen.
Yeah.
Everything's got to be a drama with you.
I'm more of a drama princess. I haven't reached the queen stage.
The Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese, on GB News.
Now, since we have a little bit of time, let me explain. Now, I'm only an expert on my story. Okay, my story, I'm an expert on.
Yours is a pretty good story. You can tell it if you like.
I was also a dyslexic kid.
Oh, really?
And so when I was growing up, I was gender dysphoric, but back in the 50s and 60s, when I was growing up, you didn't even talk about it. There wasn't even a name for it. So you keep your mouth shut. I was lucky in 5th grade, I found sports. And I latched onto that baby because I wasn't doing good in school. And all of a sudden, we had a running race in 5th grade around a bunch of chairs in the parking lot. And they were timing every kid. And I had the fastest time in the whole school. It was like the first time I ever really accomplished anything in school.
At what age? 11?
Yeah, 11, somewhere around there. And so I latched onto sports. I needed it just because suffering from gender dysphoria, I needed to be the guy. I could go out there and take on go play football, take a guy who's a good student, good reader, and clean his clock. You need that. That's important for your growth.
Yeah.
And it kind of set up a pattern. And so after the games, no, I never talked about it, but after the games, a year or two after the games, a guy calls me up and from the local paper. This is before, social media and the internet and all that. And says, I heard you were dyslexic. I'd love to do an article on it. Great. So I said, come on, I'm thinking, you can help some people. Nobody knows that about me, but there's a lot of kids out there that are suffering from that. They know I had it and I dealt with it and my life is great and I've been able to accomplish tremendous things. Might be good. So anyway, I came and did the interview. And in today's terms, it went viral. It went all over the place. Really? I had everybody calling me about being dyslexic, and there's organizations that you give speeches at, and they're starting new organizations. And I watched over the next couple of years, the word being dyslexic got bigger and bigger and bigger to where parents are looking at their kids and, they say one word backwards or, one sentence they put backwards, they do something. They go, oh my God, they could be dyslexic. We need to get special classes. We've got to spend money and get into a special school and totally got out of whack. That 3 or 4 years later, I said, I'm not doing anything else on being dyslexic. It's been hijacked by the media and by people trying to make money off it. I see the exact same thing happening right now with trans people. They're being exploited. It's not fair. This woke world is teaching radical gender ideology to our children. They could destroy lives. I think about if that happened in my life. Let's say I was in 6th, 7th grade, because when I grew up, there wasn't even a word for it. But all of a sudden, this teacher stopped talking to me about gender dysphoria and this and that. And I'm thinking in my head, that's me.
You knew?
Oh, I
like
knew it
that.
from when I was a little kid.
From early?
Oh, yeah, I was
Much
born
earlier.
that way.
Ah.
Yeah. Now, are
But
you
it's a
right-handed or left-handed?
Right-handed.
Yeah, well, I'm left-handed. Why are you right-handed and me left-handed?
Luck.
Just kind of the way we were born.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And it's the same with gender dysphoria. It's just kind of the way you were born. I mean, that's part of me. And but for so many years, if you had a chance to read my book, Secrets of My Life, I talk about all the sneaking around and how my life was just a mess, you know, for so many, many years. But I was fortunate I had a family. I've lived a phenomenal life. But if I would have been taught that stuff when I was in grade school, let's say, you know, about this radical gender ideology, it might have just totally changed my entire life, and all for the worse. And so I want to keep this radical gender ideology out of schools. I want government out of the trans business. I would like to see the media out of the trans business, okay? This is a decision. It's a decision not by government, not by another. I don't even want government supporting or paying for gender reassignment surgery. None of that stuff. This is a decision between the child, the parents, mother and father, a doctor, which they would bring in, because a lot of them are at a very young age. And to be honest with you, God's the last one. Those are the ones making the decision. I feel like government is coming in and teaching these kids. Why? Because they're trying to break up the family.
You think they're being taught this so the government can break up the family, like the
if you're going to
Marxists?
if you're going to take the greatest nation in the world and make it a socialist nation, you can't have a strong middle class. You cannot have a strong family unit. And we've always had that in our country, a strong family unit. And
but isn't the disparity between poverty and richness very much greater than it's ever been?
Yes, government has just gotten too big.
But isn't that more because of the Reagan policies?
Reagan? No, I thought Reagan was one of the greatest one we had. You talk to Barack Obama, this and that. I
mean, it was as a result of his policies that you had more rich people and more poor people, no?
No, there's nothing wrong with rich people.
No.
They make money, they hire people, they have companies, people work for them. You know, a successful business, a successful person, hires a lot of people and they pay a lot of taxes and the list goes on and on and on.
I was just talking about the fact the middle class tends to have disappeared.
We need a strong middle class.
Yes, I couldn't
We
agree
need a
more.
strong middle class.
And
we're losing the middle class by design. Why in the United States, right now, this week, literally millions of people are coming into our country illegally. Millions of people. I would say it's going to be, by the time it's over with and we get a different president, there'll be at least 15 million people in our country illegally, okay? Venezuela, emptying out their jails, putting them on buses, taking them to the border, sending them across into the United States.
That's fascinating. The Venezuelans are taking people out of prison.
Yeah, because they don't want to deal with them anymore.
So
put
they
them on
put them
buses,
on a bus.
send them across the border to us.
That's very
There's
naughty.
terrorists coming in. I mean, it's just, we're going to be dealing with this in the United States for the next 50 years.
And is that one of the reasons why there's no middle class? Or a diminishing,
Well, they're importing lower class.
Yeah.
You know, they're importing it. So it's...
To help the
it's
farmers
unfortunate.
or not? Because a lot of economists are in favor of heavy immigration.
Not too many.
Well,
no,
too many.
No,
Yes, you're drawing a line.
No. We're destroying our country with this. Right? This is not, from an economy standpoint, this is not good. They're all on welfare. We're taxpayers. We're paying for them. We're paying for their school. We're paying for their health care. We're paying for their kids. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. It's a tremendous burden on our country. Yeah, on our taxpayer, on our middle class.
Do you think that the very rich should pay more tax or the same as the middle class?
No, I am for a fair tax. I think everybody should pay the exact same thing.
The same,
right now,
same
over 50%, like around 50% of the population of the United States doesn't pay any taxes. The top 1% pays 30%. The top 10% pays like 50 or 60% of all of the taxes in our country. No, so it's not like you take more money from them.
The top 10% pay 30% of the tax.
The top 1% pays 30%.
Yeah.
Top 10% pays 50% of all taxes in the United States.
Ah, interesting.
That's not that's not a fair system. And the bottom 50% pays nothing, so they have no skin in the game, and they're the ones getting all the services. So, yeah,
So
I mean,
if
our
I can
tax
bring-
code has to be looked at.
If I can bring you back to woke again.
Okay, let's go.
I'm interested if there's any aspect of woke that you like, because to me it's a spectrum between some ideas which are to do with kindness, which is fundamentally a Christian virtue, and the other percent, which is going a little bit bananas. We had a case the other day where a company called, not a company, an institution called Oxfam, they issued a pamphlet telling the people who work for them, advising them how they should speak, and they said things like, if you support someone, you should not say to them that you stand with them because it might upset people who can't stand. Now, that seems to me ridiculous. So there's one end of woke that I think is pretty ridiculous, but there's another end which ideally is about trying to help and be kind and care.
I am 100% behind kindness.
Yeah, not a bad idea.
I'm a kind person. I help people. I do whatever I can. My whole family is that way.
Yeah.
I've tried to bring them up that way. Kindness is extremely important. I just joined on as a spokesman for a PAC, which is raising money for issues. It's called Fairness First. I'm all about fairness.
Good.
Okay?
Yeah.
And that because I have been an advocate for fairness in women's sports. I'm not on the woke side of saying, oh, trans women should be able to compete in sports. No, it's not fair. Okay, it's just not fair.
And it's not...
So I've been out trying to, for the last 2 years, trying to protect women's sports.
Yes.
I love women, okay? And it's just not fair
Because
to
the
compete
argument is that if you, at puberty, if you have a man's body, it's essentially bigger and stronger than a woman's body would be. If you then go to
the
compete...
rules are all over the place, okay, when it comes to trans women in sports. And, you know, I go all the way back, and you go way back there, too. You remember back in the 70s, a little bit into the 80s, the East German women at the Olympics? Yeah, remember that? And the Soviet, it was Soviet Union back then, the Soviet women, you looked at them and you went, oh, my God, you know, look at those girls. I mean, and so the Olympic Committee's been dealing with it for a long time to keep it fair. And that was mostly drug-related, okay? It was because the testing procedures weren't as accurate back then as they are today. Today, they're so accurate and they're so well-tested. They do a pretty good job of testing for that. Yeah, they do a good job for that. But when it comes to sports, it's just not fair. And honestly, I started with the Leah Thomas deal, and you remember that at Penn. It just wasn't fair, and Leah Thomas was 6'4", big hands, transitioned just over the last couple of years. And hormone levels were lower, but went through male puberty. 6'4", big hands, kicking butt in the NCAA, okay?
Yes.
And it's just wrong. It's not fair. It's not fair because they went through puberty. FINA is the world organization controls the rules in swimming, changed the rules, said, and I think rightly so, that you would have to have transitioned before the age of 12. Why? Because you have to transition before you go through puberty. And I agree with that decision, and we'll see how that works out. Then one of your people, Sebastian Coe, okay, one of your great runners.
Oh, yeah.
He's the head of World Athletics. And he, about a couple of months back, he said, I picked fairness over equality. And basically came and banned trans women from international sports.
Right.
And again, I think that's the right decision. We just have to protect women's sports, you know? Now in the United States, we have a law called Title IX. Title IX was passed back in the 80s, early 80s. And it was a fairness, mostly in the NCAA, but fairness in women's sports, okay? If the boys get, let's say the men's soccer team gets 10 scholarships, well, then the women have to get 10 scholarships too, okay? Well, with that in place over the last 30 years, 40 years, I mean, it has risen women's sports tremendously.
Yeah.
It's given out so many scholarships to women, and it's been such a great program, okay?
Great program.
Well, even the NCAA is doing things about trans athletes, but now Joe Biden, who's been on the wrong side of every issue in history, says we have to open up Title IX to make it gender identity, not women.
Really?
Which would kill women's sports, backed by $10 million by George Soros, okay? Backed by George Soros. So now Joe Biden is literally trying to ruin women's sports by letting anybody who just identifies as a woman go in and compete. It would destroy women's sports. It would discourage women. It is ridiculous. So with Fairness First, that's what we're doing. We're raising money to go out and fight this issue because it's not going away. It's not going away.
But a lot of international bodies governing sports have made decisions in accordance with what you're saying recently.
Some of the big ones have. Not every one. We have a long way to go. Because in the case of fairness, you have to deal with every different organization. And they have to come up with their own set of rules, you know? And so that's what we do at Fairness First. We're doing that, and we're also working on two things. Fairness in women's sports, and we're also working on parental rights. I see that people are, and I see what's happening, we're losing parental rights. It's like the state wants to take over our children when it comes to teaching radical gender ideology, you know, this you know, woke rainbow, you know, mafia that we have out there are pushing. And I want to protect, you know, parental rights. And we see it in the United States, especially in school board meetings and parents coming and school boards teaching your children stuff you don't want taught. Parents need to be in control of what their children, not the state.
Is it what that you don't want taught at a certain age, or just generally you don't want it taught?
No, it's not even a certain. Well, right now it's in school. I mean, that's really where you're losing it, is in school. But parents have to know that they're in charge. If you know, you can go to a private school, costs a lot of money to go there. You're already paying. If you're paying taxes, you're already paying for your school. So now you got to pay your taxes and send your kid to a private school to educate them, what I would consider properly, and that's just not right. So we're trying to protect parental rights.
I'm a little concerned because I'm a little old-fashioned, and I was married to a therapist who was Freudian.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
And you survived?
Well, she cost me $20 million, so I'm not sure if you call
I don't know
that
if that's really survival. But she's a lot better off,
But
right?
she was great.
Is she happy, I hope?
She was very happy.
Oh, good.
She was very keen on the Freud's idea of what's known the latency period, which is that tiny little kids are really quite sexual, and then it stops, and they become very asexual for a time until puberty.
Right.
And Freud said if they are subject to anything sexual during that time, it tends to upset the whole apparatus.
Well, see, that's exactly what we're fighting. I don't want the schools, as you say, during that stuff where they are kind of asexual. Let's say you have a little a little girl's kind of a tomboy. You know, in the old days, they could be a tomboy. It was kind of cute.
Yeah.
You know, or a little boy that's maybe more on the feminine side, you know, but it was cute, a nice kid, on and on. But today, what they're doing is in that period, or as you say, they're kind of asexual, they're trying to find themselves. You have schools coming in, teaching this radical gender ideology to these kids.
At a time when they shouldn't really be bothered by sexual ideas.
They shouldn't be, that shouldn't even come up.
Yeah.
Let the kids, I know I raised 10 children. Every 6 months you had a different child. You know, one time it seems like, you know, that this is the problem, and then 6 months later it's a totally different problem.
Yeah.
You know, kids change all the time.
Yeah.
You don't want them, especially in that time, to make any radical decisions about their life.
I agree with that.
Or gender-affirming care, or any of that stuff. Have the state leave our children alone.
Yeah.
For the very few, you know, that really suffer from gender dysphoria.
Yeah.
That has to really be handled on an individual basis, but it's not the state, it's the parents, it's God, it's the doctor, for them to make the decisions for their child. Not the state. The state should not even be. Teach reading, writing, arithmetic, in our case, American history. Teach that. Don't teach all this other stuff.
I really enjoyed making the show. Wide variety of different types of people, and the team were all great, and the extras were all great.
Yeah.
And you got to talk to all of these people. You developed quite a warm relationship with the nuns, particularly.
You got a few telephone numbers, yeah. And then I kissed a nun. Yeah.
Did?
Well, as you know, I'm in the film business myself. I've been on many.
You should explain that to people, that you're not really in the film business. You are an extra.
I am a supporting artist.
Supporting artist.
But I have had relatively large roles in some of these films.
Well, you had a line in Wonder Woman, didn't you?
I had a line in Wonder Woman.
What was the line?
We have to see the president, something like that.
You do that very well.
I did.
I was convinced.
But people notice it. Whatever it is, don't belittle me, Andrew.
I'm being sincere.
These people don't know.
No, I'm being sincere. You're interpreting me as belittling you. I'm not.
So I have been
I'm impressed.
I'm not listening to you. Okay. I've been on many film shoots.
Yes.
And not even considering this is your first time, you seem totally in control.
What, as a producer?
Of a producer, totally in control. The director, of course, was competent, and so I thought it was extremely...
It was a professional set.
It was a professional set.
We do things professionally at GB News, that's the thing.
And really well done.
Yeah, well,
really well done.
Well,
and I thought it was I thought the production values, I thought if I had to do it, I would have saved a little bit of money, and maybe not had cats, maybe not had extras.
Well, I think the cats were quite integral to the whole ethos. You know, John was very keen on the cats. John has lots of cats.
He does have lots of cats,
and so he wanted cats there.
So, you know, whenever I say something controversial on Facebook, I always post a picture of a cat.
It does actually mollify any situation instantly, doesn't it?
It does.
If I've been in lots of Twitter arguments, what I do is I just put a cat video out there, and it's like a cleanser, and everyone just calms down.
And we're happy we've seen cats.
You can't retain anger and rage in the face of a cat. A big furry face.
Right.
You were on the New York comedy scene.
Yeah.
Then you came to the UK, and for some reason you stayed.
For some reason I stayed. I wanted to see my children.
Oh, it was because family matters.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I would have gone home if I didn't have any children, because they liked me initially a little bit, and then they turned on me.
Well, the children or the audience?
Everybody. This is British people think they're the funniest people on earth, and you're not. You're not funny, as you can tell. He's not funny trying to be funny.
I'm not trying to be funny.
You're trying to be funny. You can see. Here's sorry about this, Andrew.
That's all right.
Is that I think with Americans, Americans like to be loved.
Is that right?
And English people don't want to be loved.
Do you know what, that is true? I noticed that with American comedians. There's a lot more sense of like me, you know, like they're a lot more bubbly, whereas a lot of British comedians are almost standoffish.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking for laughing at them.
I was thinking more of the audience. Is that the audience in this country? If you tell the audience, "Oh my God, I love England! What a great country! Your castles, you're great people. You're so much more spiritual. You're so much more."
The audiences don't like it.
But if you go to America and you say, "America," you know, you.
Well, look, I've performed in America, not much, just a few times.
Yeah.
The audiences are very, how would you put it, vocal.
Yeah.
Very I mean, they cheer at anything. And they laugh at anything.
Yeah, because they paid money. They want to enjoy themselves. You
So
people
it's capitalist, that's what it is.
It's you pay. I don't know. That's not the right word.
No,
it's not capitalist. You pay money. You're going to get your money's worth.
don't think it's
Americans
that,
are going to get their money's worth.
I love that you can psychoanalyze an entire nation.
I've thought about it. I've been here for 23 years already. I've had too much of you people.
You know, you need to be a comedian. You need to be a performer. Something inside you, is screaming out for attention.
No, I could do lots of things. I've done other things, and I've done other things well. I sold advertising space. I was an estate agent.
Were you?
Yeah, I did lots of other things.
The Dinosaur Hour with me, John Cleese, on GB News. Tell me, are there other aspects of woke that you have sympathy for?
Sympathy?
The fairness end.
Well, I'm for fairness, number one, but I don't think, I just think the woke movement has just gone too far.
Yeah.
Okay? I can be fair and not be woke.
Yes, I agree.
I can be a caring person and not be woke. I care about people. That's why I do what I do. I feel like when I came out, 2015, it's been 8 years. At first I thought I could change the world. I thought, wow.
No.
Because my last conversation I had before I decided to do this was with God.
Mm-hmm.
I don't go to church all the time, but I'm a person of faith. So that's always been in the back of my mind. Like, God, why did you do this to me? I think anybody who has challenges in life and they have any faith in their heart whatsoever, they ask, why did you do this to me? And here my whole life I've been dealing with my identity and who I am. And why is there a reason for this? Am I doing the right thing? And when I go up that day, you walk up the stairs into the pearly gates and God's sitting there and I said, my God, did I do a good job? You want him to say yes. And so I've been thinking about all of that for so long that my last person I had to talk to, and I was walking through a field, I remember, and said, God, am I doing the right thing? Is there a reason for this? And I just got the feeling that it was like, it's okay. You can do this. You can live your life authentically. I felt like he said yes. And it was kind of like the last thing I needed. And that's when, besides all my children, because I had talked to all my children about this, that I had to know I was doing the right thing. And that me coming out could change and save a lot of lives. That's what I was hoping, but especially at first. Because obviously I couldn't do it privately.
No.
I was already a big-time celebrity.
Big time.
Big time. I was known all over the world. I thought about, why don't I just move to Alaska to the backwoods and live in a place, but I'd have to leave all my children. I'd leave all the things that I couldn't do it that way. So if I do it, I just have to try to do it right and do it with respect and do it with a dignified way, not only for myself and my family, but for trans people in general. I tried to do it that way. And it was a struggle. I mean, it was at first, you're kind of riding on this little high, and then it gets harder and harder because my views, being a Republican, being conservative, being all of those types of things, they're not on the normal side of what trans people are. They're all kind of woker than I am.
So where do you get the flack from?
Oh, I get it from most of it's all from the trans community. Yeah. I've never had a problem in general. There's the whole bathroom thing and this, and I have not been in a men's room in 8 years.
Yeah.
Okay. By the way, the women's rooms are much nicer. Okay. They don't have those urinals on the walls and smelly and all that. They got flowers in there, usually nice music. The conversation is much better in the ladies' room. I just want to tell you, you're missing out.
No, but you're part of the few people who would know that. So you know what you're talking about.
Yes, I know what I'm talking about on that one. But, so, I mean, I've lived my life, it's, I get a lot of flack from mostly trans people who don't like that I'm a Republican. I support President Trump. He did phenomenal things for our country in the 4 years he was there. Unfortunately, he's not there right now, and we're paying the price with everything, inflation, the border. We had the most secure border in the world, in the United States history. And now, look at 15 million people are going to come across our border. We didn't even know who the hell they are. I'm sure you wouldn't let 15 million people come across from Europe on the shores of the UK and just let them in. Who cares who they are? Let them in, bust them.
Well, we could do that if we had somewhere else to go.
Yeah, right, yeah. So anyway, because of that, I've gotten a lot of flack, and because I'm much more conservative, maybe a different look at the trans community. I know so many trans people that are just wonderful human beings, hardworking, great. That's the majority, honestly. That's the majority of trans people. It is this small percentage that are out there given a microphone but through social media.
Why do they have so much effect on the people who don't really like their policies, the other trans people?
I feel like a lot of them are trying to become celebrities. They're trying to use to get out there, to get clicks, to be on TikTok or be here or be there. I didn't start off wanting to be a celebrity in this thing. I had no choice. Right. Okay, I was already a very big celebrity that was just trying to live their life authentically. And in doing that, maybe I could help some people, okay? Honestly, in my family...
I'm interested in the fact that they don't really want to debate the subject.
Because my views are different than theirs.
No, but I'm saying in general, they
Democrats.
don't want to debate or discuss it. Because for some reason, they regard that as unnecessary. They just feel...
Yeah, well, they think it's their way or the highway.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just like the other day, Riley Gaines, she's the girl who's been talking in the United States a lot. She was the one who swam against Leah Thomas. And she has been a big advocate of keeping trans women out of women's sports. And I'm a big supporter. She's a good friend. And has done wonderful work. But she was in San Francisco a couple of months back, giving a speech to the students there, and she had a bunch of trans people just literally come after her, hit her. As she said, there was a guy in a dress, and the other ones, and it was videotaped. And you could hear them in the background, these trans women yelling, trans women are real women, and on and on and on. Making fools of themselves, okay? And that's not good. It's horrible for trans people in general. Yeah. It's horrible. It makes us look selfish. The Leah Thomases of the world, trans girls swimming, it's not good for trans people. It makes them look selfish, self-indulged. It's like all about me. It's not about all these other girls I'm beating. I don't even play in my in my club's women's tournaments. They've asked me to play in the women's golf tournament. Oh, yeah? But I can outdrive them by 100 yards. I haven't been on testosterone in 8 years, and I can still hit the ball 280 yards, okay? I'm still long, my arms, this and that.
So it's not fair.
But this is the way I look at myself. I see these, trans women are real women. No, you're not. Okay, that's the bottom line. This is the way I look at my life. I have everything changed. Birth certificate, gender marker, F. Okay, everything's changed. Driver's license, I'm a pilot, my pilot's license. You name everything that's in my name is legally Caitlyn Marie Jenner, gender marker F. Okay? As I said earlier, I haven't used the men's room in a million years and probably never will, and have never had a problem. I mean, I go in there. I'm respectful of the other women that they're there. A lot of them will know who you are. I go in and do my business and get out, If somebody starts up a conversation, I'll have a conversation with them. But there we go.
He's drinking your water.
Yeah. And so... So I live my life as a woman, but I don't consider myself this, I am a woman now and on and on. No, I consider myself a trans person.
Yeah.
That's who I am. And
what I'm interested in, you see, I mean, when you say, you know, we're women, we're arguing about the definition of words.
Right.
And that's always completely pointless.
Yes,
because there's no way you can prove one or another.
Yeah.
It's just how people use words.
Yeah.
So it seems to me what matters, because after all through history, there were men who were more female and there were women who were more male. Well, it only comes down to certain things, like sports is a key one. Yeah. And bathrooms is a key one, and maybe there's one or two others. Otherwise, what is the fuss about, provided we are kind and pleasant and tolerant?
We're right back to kindness,
friendly.
baby.
Yeah.
Kindness works all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, kindness works all the time.
And they don't seem very kind. I mean, the ones
there's a
who
lot of
go-
trans people are not very kind, and there's a lot of woke people that aren't very kind. You know, so many religious, you know, some people from a religious standpoint, they say, you're a man or a woman, and that's it, and there's nothing in between. Okay, well, being gender dysphoric has been around throughout humanity.
Yes.
This is nothing new.
Nothing new.
Nobody ever talked about it before. They keep their mouth shut, and they go through life, you know. And so, you know,
And we
that's
do
what I'm
now
trying to
have
do.
a certain openness and acceptance of it.
Yeah.
I mean, there are always horrible people who will be prejudiced against.
Of course there are. And you know what? I'll just wake up in the morning and I just be myself all day. And that's it. I mean, I just be myself. This is me, okay?
I like that.
Yeah.
Caitlyn?
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was nice talking to you.
Good fun.
Yes, it was fun.
And thanks for coming.
My pleasure.
Next time on the Dinosaur Hour.
I think historically, Jesus' miracles were probably the most significant thing about him. It's the miracles that draw the crowds.
In Hinduism, you have a number of gods. Can you explain that to me?
Yes, I spent most of my career, John, trying to disprove that.
Oh, really? Yes. Oh, excellent. I can't think of any more questions, Kate. You got any suggestions?
Why don't we stop talking and have a little bit of meditation to finish off?
Sure.
You can think of religions as a sort of the human response or expression or the human attempt to reach a certain set of answers about questions of fundamental concern. And that might be a god, it might be Jesus, it might be Brian, or it might be Brian's gourd, or it might be Brian's sandal.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel.